Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, we will be presenting our group project for the course info 1303 database system, which is Ibadah Care Management System. So this is our group members, which consists of 3 members from section 7. Firstly, me myself, Muhammad Nabi Syahbi bin Zaidi. Secondly, Muhammad Mujahid bin Abdullah. And last but not least, Muhammad Iqbal bin Ishaq. For introduction, every year Ibadah Camp is offered to IIUM students during the short semester break by their respective kuliah. There are 4 different modules that are available to cover a student 4 year in IIUM, which are: firstly, Brotherhood and Unity in Islam; Module 2, Concept of Tauhid, Ibadah and Khalifah in Islam; Module 3, Leadership in Islam; and lastly, Module 4, Dakwah, a fundamental Islamic obligation.
Okay, now we move to our ER diagram. I'm going to presenting our attributes and constraint for each entity. So firstly, we have kuliah. The primary key is kuliah code name and kuliah full name. And next, we have enrolled students, which ID as our primary key, kuliah code name as the foreign key, and total students. And next, the next entity is Ibadah Camp modules. That consists of module ID as our primary key, module name, and kuliah code name as our foreign key. And next, we have student registration. That consists of student name, foreign key, kuliah code name, and the primary key is matric number. We have email address and phone number. And the next entity, Ibadah Camp registration. The primary key is registration ID, foreign key, kuliah code name, and module ID. And we have program duration, program date, estimated budget, approved status, and fund allocated. And the next, we have activities. The primary key is activity ID, activity number, objective, date time, and we have module ID as our foreign key and staff ID also as our foreign key. And lastly, activity status. And next entity is student feedback, which consists of feedback ID as our primary key, metric number as our foreign key, and module ID as our foreign key, feedback, date time. And lastly, we have staff table. The primary key is staff ID, staff name. We have telephone number and email address.
Okay, next, we move on to the data dictionary of our system. Here, we have kuliah for our first entity, which will store the code and full name of kuliah, and consists of 2 baca2 data type, and here we put the code name of kuliah as our primary key. Secondly, we have staff to store the staff details, consists of 4 attributes, which the staff ID, staff name, telephone number, and email address. The third entity of our system is the Ibadah Camp modules, which to store available modules, and it also filled with 3 baca2. Next, we have enrolled students to store the data of total enrolled student in each kuliah.
For entity name student registration, we will store registered student details with student name, kuliah code name, metric number, email address, and phone number. And next is a entity name student feedback. It will collect student feedback, comment, rating into the database. And furthermore, for the entity name Ibadah Camp registration, the database will store program details that had been proposed by each kuliah to centries, such as program duration, program date, their estimate budget, approved status, and fund allocated. And lastly, entity name activities. It will store activity that we conduct for each module by each kuliah.
Okay, next we move on to SQL scripts, which are tables. First, we have kuliah table. As you can see here, this is the description of the kuliah table. Consists of two Baca2 data type, and it stores code and full name of each kuliah, such as KOE, Kuliah of Engineering, KICT, Kuliah of Information and Communication Technology. Next, we're gonna see our staff table. Consists of 4 attributes: the staff ID, staff name, telephone number, and email address. And down there we have the result of the table. Okay, next we have the Ibadah Camp modules table, which to store the available Ibadah Camp modules. For example, there module 3 leadership in Islam and module 1 brotherhood unity in Islam. Furthermore, we have enrolled students table to store the data of total enrolled students in each kuliah. Like here, for example, we have 350 total students from KICT, and KOE we have 250 students.
For student registration table, we use data type number for metric number, and the others we will use data type Baca2 with different length. And when we select all the data from the student registration table, all the following 5 columns will show, such as metric number, student name, email address, phone number, and kuliah. Next is the student feedback table. In this table, we will use data type number for the feedback ID, metric number, rating, and data type Baca2 with 300 length for the feedback, and timestamp for the date time. And below we can see the data that has been stored in the student feedback table. For example, feedback ID 1 with metric number 2114032 with rating 5, and the feedback: this program is great and entertaining, and the date time is 20 March 2022 at 9 AM. Next is the Ibadah Camp registration table. In this table, there will be 8 data that will be stored in this table. For example, the registration ID, kuliah ID, module ID, program duration, program date, estimate budget, approved status, and fund allocated. Lastly is the activities table. In this table, we will use data type number for activity ID and staff ID, and data type Baca2 for activity name, objective, module ID, and activity status, and data type for timestamp is used for date time. And below shows the data that has been stored in the activities table. For example, activity ID 1, the activity is Tazkirah Subuh with the following objective, date time, module ID, staff ID, and activity status. Next, we will continue with the SQL queries that we have created. So the first one, we want to list student name, phone number, metric number, and feedback rating that equal to 5, and we want they are in the same metric number along with any unmatched rating. So our SQL queries, we write like select b.student name, b.phone number, b.metric number, p.rating from student registration, b right join student feedback, p on b.metric number equal to p.metric number, where p.rating equal to 5. B dot refers to the student registration table, and p dot refers to the student feedback table. We use right join to return all the row from the right side and unmatched rows from the left side of the table. And we also write b dot metric number equal to p dot metric number, so that the metric number from the student registration table will match with the metric number in the student feedback table. And we want student that give the rating equal to 5. So our output shows can be looked in below. Student name Syahmi, he give the rating that equal to 5. Next, we also create the SQL queries to count the total student in a kuliah who are registered. We write select t.kuliah count t.kuliah as total student in kuliah. From student registration, t group by kuliah. T dot refers to the student registration table. And we count t.kuliah to calculate the total student registered in each kuliah, and we declare total student in kuliah as a table name, and we group them by the kuliah. And below shows the output of our queries. Next, we also create the SQL queries to show each activity with details and the staff who handle the activities. We write select s.star, b dot staff name from the staff b, activities s, where b dot staff id equal to s dot staff id, order by s dot activity id. S dot refers to the activities table, b dot refers to the staff table. We select all the data from the activities table, and we select the staff name from the staff table, where the staff ID from the activities table will be matched with the staff ID from the staff table. And we order our output according to the activity ID in the ascending order. So below shows the output of our SQL queries.
Okay, now we move to our fourth SQL query. We're going to display students' feedback rating alongside with their names, metric number, and kuliah. Firstly, we select metric number, student name, kuliah full name, rating, and feedback. We use the natural join, which consists of student registration, kuliah, and we join the student feedback, and the result we get metric in 5 columns, which is metric number, student name, kuliah full name, rating, and also feedback. We move to our last slides. Okay, now we're gonna list down all kuliah full names alongside with their Ibadah Camp module names with budget less than 10,000 ringgit. Okay, firstly we select the kuliah full name, module name, estimated budget from the Ibadah Camp registration table, and we use two inner join in our SQL query, and we got the output with consists of 3 columns, which consists of kuliah full name, module name, and estimated budget. So that's all from us.